no matter how deeply involved we are in the material that we're working on and how much we seem to be in it, every actor, and you all know this, has what I call the sixth sense, some little clicker that says, oh, that worked well, no, that didn't, why didn't this work? Oh, they're getting restless, I better hurry up, oh, they laughed on the wrong line. We know these things. So instead of saying, what does somebody else think, what do I think? And it'll take you a while, but it can be developed as a very special, needed skill, right? How substitution in relationship to others can change. Let's suppose my sense of age, how young or how old I am, very often depends on whom I'm with, right? Now, I'm walking down the hall and I bump into Alfred Lunt, and he reaches out and asks to shake my hand. Now, I'm heading here and I see it's Alfred Lunt. You know, I mean, I'm 18 again. That's how I feel. I mean, because of the admiration about our relationship at that time. Now, I can substitute, if we're playing together, him for you, if I need to. Do you see?
Right.
And it brings about a totally different... Now, the whole point in substitution is that I'm not carrying, as we shake hands, I'm not carrying Alfred Lunt around in my head. I'm not playing, you know, where is he? And that's what he looks like. And, you know, but I'm transferring that relationship onto you. And when I shake hands with you, I'm doing it to you, right? Not to him anymore. That's where we often screw up in substitutions. We hang on to the source and it floats around with us. We're doing homework there and we don't see who we're doing it with. See, when it's translated into action, into behavior with the partner, our relationship immediately becomes something else. Now, if I take my snotty son-in-law, the same circumstances, all right? And you offer me your hand. Okay, here I go. And I go, you see, now. But I've again done it to him, not to my son-in-law. You see, that's the step in rehearsal we often leave out. That we imagine, and then we hang on to the imaginative thing rather than putting it on to the object or the person. Right? Okay, very good.
When I first learned about transference and substitutions, I remember being very confused as to whether I was supposed to literally like superimpose someone from my life, like a boyfriend or somebody who I loved, over the face of like my scene partner in order to, you know, have the correct like emotional investment in that person. And she was like, no, substitution defines behavior.
I came from California Junior College, which was a great experience. At the time, it was before Proposition 13, so they still had money to put on plays.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of great performances. And then I went to New York and went to Juilliard, which was, you know, classical training.
Right.
It was very much to be a thespian and to be able to enunciate for no reason. And which eventually you will be trained like this, and other people will be going, no, you can't talk, you can't talk. But I can project to the back row! And we had movement training and all this other stuff, which is weird because it comes back. You really do use it. And mask, and it's almost like, you know, the same thing. It's like they break you down, and then the second year you get to come back and kind of, you know, build it back up again.
Right.
And eventually Hausman says, Mr. Williams, the theater needs you. I'm going off to sell Volvos. But it was great training. I mean, the fact that now is a 3-year school probably is, at that time it was a 4-year school. But for me, it was a wonderful thing. Number one, to be in New York.
Right.
Training, and also to get that type of training where you get the combination classical and the hardcore. I remember I had one of our acting teachers was a psychotherapist. Sorry, I should talk about that with a therapist. A psychotherapist who taught an acting class, which is kind of like having a leper give you a facial. But you get all these great, you know, teachers that would kind of get you the combination of the two. Great diction, great movement, you know, stage fighting, which is always good, especially when you're having an argument on the street with a friend, you can fake slap them. And then, you know, go off and, you know, try and find acting work, go back to San Francisco and try and find acting work, and then took up stand-up comedy as because I couldn't find acting work. The passion of creativity, which goes back to the core of, you know, why we do what we do, is this weird thing of actually even though sometimes you're saying someone else's words, you still believe, and you in your heart of hearts, that you're creating, and that's the kind of thing that drives you, because there is a little bit of an endorphin buzz when you hit it right. When you do have that moment where you do, where everything works, and there is that thing where the outside world is gone, and you do get a moment where, it's the illusion, the lights, the whole thing, look at the rabbit, everything works. Or you're creating something in that very second, and it transcends. And in that, the poetry and the beauty of language, as we find it deteriorating in our regular life, for someone who speaks a little bit slower than you have to kind of remember that there is this power. Words have a power, and the other thing I learned from Peter Weir, that stillness has a power. That he said, you don't have to do anything. The sheer, the act of being in that moment and being very concentrated with it, but not to that. An acting teacher once who said, Mr. Williams, that last thing you did, I know was very quiet, but it was a bit like someone urinating in brown corduroy pants. You feel wonderful, we see nothing. But you get that idea of, sometimes it could be that method kind of, I need a moment, I need to prepare. Sometimes that could be it, but it's finding the balance between the two of, letting something happen, but not making everyone wait 2 days while you starve yourself to feel that moment of, okay, I'm ready. You got to go back and keep working.
Keep working.
Yeah, and find projects and go out and keep pushing the envelope, as the people I admire, And it's a thing of seeing people do interesting work, and just keep trying to push the parameters so you don't get confined. Advice on other levels is to find, I have a support group of friends and some honest opinion nearby other than your own, because sometimes you need someone to say, just someone to bounce it off of, to say, what do you think of this? And someone you can trust, and that's an important thing. Just have another opinion, because sometimes, we all have weaknesses or tendencies to go, oh, that's wonderful, and then someone will go, not really. I wish I'd listened to a lot more of those opinions. But it's, it's always that thing. It's always a learning thing where, you may get smacked around, but it is, like I said with those guys that I admired, they all grew up tough fucking lives, but they had like Steiger said, he said, acting is about that, finding that moment of truth, or that one thing that, maybe it was Joyce who said it was, I think maybe even Hemingway, I'm trying to find the right person, and they're all going, find it, you ass. But to find that one true line. But it's to keep, in this weird thing of in all this kind of pretense, is to find those moments of truth, and that helps in a world where, everything is working against you. As once, this is a great quote from an old guy who worked away. He said, working for a studio is like trying to fuck a porcupine. Sometimes you feel like a prick against thousands. But, you're up against a system that's trying to, keep everything kind of, to go for the optimum line, keep it banal, make sure that they can hedge the bet. And the object is to push this way and to try and find something different. And the truth is, people are going for the stuff that's different. Whether it's independent movies or mainstream movies, but it's the stuff that they didn't plan for that just suddenly went, wait a minute, this is bizarre and wonderful, and in the end, it's something I've seen, but other things that I haven't seen. And you're also in the face of now with this technology that can make anything. It was kind of frightening. A director who shall remain nameless was bragging about the fact that, I can change people's timing now. I went, oh, great. But, you still have to find, because there still is a power in that. For me, even when I see Lord of the Rings and see Gollum, and you see that's great technology, but part of it, what's driving it is that voice. It's insane, because sometimes it's so daunting. And you just got, you get, whether it's you get hammered by reviews, or whether it's just the idea of even, the lack of work, or when it's to find that things are still the joy. If you still have the joy, for me, it's still a joy to do. And it's still, I still have access to, even like here, a crowd. But finding that access is really important, and that's the, where you can still keep doing, number one, what you do, and still find the love of it. Because if not, I meet a lot of kids who would say, like, I don't want to be an actor, and said, and your reasons are, I'm going to be famous. Good luck. The idea is, if you have the passion for it, the chances are you will find it. It will be there because it's that, you have, and I know a lot of people who have the passion say, I've had passion for 25 years. And I've had one part. Okay. what do you say then? You say, but I have met people who've done that and still said, fuck it, I still love doing it. And it is that, it is, we've chosen a kind of bizarre profession that for a long time we were considered to be in the same thing. There used to be these signs that said, no pickpockets, prostitutes, or actors. And then you realize, I'm all of the above. I'll take your money, fuck you, and act.
They used to have a saying embossed almost in gold in the front of every studio you went into, which said, if you've got a message, go to Western Union. And it is, after all, the movie business. It's the motion picture industry. Am I bothering your focus by rocking back and forth? Okay. In trying to select pictures, I've always sort of tried to shave it, which I think perhaps is not enough at this time, because we don't have enough time now. Population, the graph now of population is on an exponential curve. I just learned that word the other day. It means 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16, 6 times 16. That's exponential. Anyway, we don't have that much time, so we can't fiddle around anymore. I think that I'm getting a little long in the tooth now, and I think the industry is too, and I think we're all getting, philosophically, a little long in the tooth to be able to be playing games with something as potent as this instrument, this medium. So we've got to be, all of us, much more responsible, and we've got to listen to one another. Because if I just go on blabbering and not listen to what you have to say, you haven't interrupted me once here in this interview, and I hope you'll keep that in. Because it's important for you to say, wait a minute, Marlon, because this is a time for dialogue. It's a time for the sound man. I don't know what your name is. I forgot your name.
That's Leroy.
I think it's time for all you guys to interrupt, and this, we got a drop format. Marshall McLuhan's hair would stand on end if he saw what we were doing here. Because that's the thing we need to do, is to break format and to break formula, so that even while I'm saying something that you think is provocative and say, God, this is going to make a hell of a point in the show, or this is really interesting, we got him going now. The hell with that. If somebody disagrees, then you got to speak up. You got to say what it is. He's got his glasses up, peering at me through the camera, and he's got to say, hey, wait a minute, Marlon, I think this is wrong and that's wrong. Because if it isn't a world of dialogue and exchange between people, if it's just people like me pontificating and shooting my mouth off all the time, then we're in for a hell of a lot of trouble. We got to hear from everybody.
But anyway, to interrupt you a moment.
Oh, you're doing that on cue. Take that. Oh, there's coffee in there. I wasted it.
I don't know if it's storytelling so much as problem solving. I like what the theater's a real problem solving environment. It's solving questions, small questions, big questions, and illuminating them and expressing them, and there's always, the story is kind of the venue to do those things, and you need a good story to bring up those kinds of questions. But I think about it more in that way, I guess. It's a maddening, crazy exploration with the help of the other artists in the room, and you just keep exploring and asking questions, and that's what it's about. If I got in anything more than that, it would probably make me fall asleep. So I wouldn't want to test you guys with more than that. But yeah, it is. It's just everyone's in a room exploring the text and trying to come to illuminate the problem solving, and so they can get inside it and start to do it.
There's a kind of talent myth in this country that I'm a little allergic to. There's this idea that, Bob Dylan just sits down and this gift is translated from the centennial Marlon Brando. He's just a beautiful guy. He's just a genius. And what that does is relinquish us from any responsibility to work hard. Yeah. I'm not as talented as them, or, it just doesn't. And yet, if you really want to focus on the profession of acting, there's this kind of cult of personality that follows a lot of actors. Oh, isn't George Clooney amazing? Isn't Jack Nicholson amazing? Oh, they're so... And they kind of deify the personality. And yet, if we really look at this tiny country of England, across the sea there, if you look at the history of the Academy Awards, for example, how many British people, Irish people, Welsh people are nominated for Oscars.
2 this year.
And every year, it's a tiny population. And they are constantly creating great actors. And part of that has to do, there's a relationship to craft there, and there isn't the same talent myth and personality worship. And young actresses can look to Judi Dench, and they can look to Vanessa Redgrave, and they can look to Helen Mirren, and they can see a room that they're not in. That a room that, that is not about looks, it's not about being clever, it's not about making money, it's not about advertising campaigns, it's about having something to say and having harnessed your own talent and your own education and such to use it. And our country is not provided with that. We treat the whole thing like it's some competition about making money and everything. And I feel I'm old enough now to look at young actors and want to say this out loud on television.
Like you just did.
Like I just did. Yeah. Robin Williams was, first of all, I grew up on Mork and Mindy. Second of all, he was just coming back from the Oscars for Good Morning Vietnam. I had seen Garp. Remember how beautiful he was in Garp. And he used to joke around on set all the time and make me crazy because his focus was laser, but mine was not. It's very, very difficult for me to stay concentrated and do all the things I wanted to do to be this person, And it happened. I felt this buzz of what it was like to act. And he says, remember this. And time keeps changing. The memory's different now that he's gone. The memory changed. Remember this as a power. Now, of course, it also is filled with how hard this profession is. Two of the great talents of my life, two of the biggest influences on me, Robin Williams and Philip Seymour Hoffman, both passed away last year, right? These are very, very serious artists, and they're not celebrities to me. Philip was the first one of my generation to be a fully actualized actor artist. He had something to say with his work, with his theater company, with the choices he made, with the way he carried himself in the world. He was a very serious person. Robin too. Depression is a real demon in the woods too, of a lot of creative people, and it's part of what the documentary is trying to be about for me, is finding balance, where the beauty that is attainable in the creative arts can be matched with the scratchy roughness of regular life. Regular life sometimes doesn't have the grace that you can have when you're acting, or if you ever watched, which we all have, Robin in a comic Jag, when it's flowing through him. Tell you something, after that scene, you go to the craft service table, you get a cup of coffee, you're sitting there, and Robin Williams is sitting by himself, totally depleted. It didn't come for free. I worked with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It didn't come for free. I saw him in Death of a Salesman. It didn't come for free. My other hero as a young man was River Phoenix, who was, my own Private Idaho was the bar for young men. He was the first one, it's very popular right now to talk about gay rights and gay marriage, and something that I obviously think is important, but River did it when it was unpopular, and he was 23. It was not cool, when you're trying to get a career going for yourself. There wasn't anybody in the world that told him, I got a good idea. Why don't you go work with that weird outlaw fringe artist Gus Van Sant and make a movie about a gay hustler? But River saw it as something else, but it's hard to grow up, and it doesn't stop when you're 40, look at Robin, Phil, it's a tough row to hoe, and so I don't know. Did I answer your question?
You said it well.